I bought one, a Nikon, if you're from Europe, which I am, so it should be Nikon ZR, which is their first camera that is a collab with RED after them buying RED last year. So I just want to talk about a little bit why and unbox it here as we're taking a look at it for the first time. I mean, I've had a little bit of hands-on time with one already, and that was what really got me thinking about, maybe I'll pick one of these up. Strap, instructions, which will never open. A little battery here, which I'm gonna have to buy more of these because I'm gonna burn through them. What are these called? Are these the same as the ZF ones? I think they are. And then the camera itself inside the packaging just here. So the first time I saw this camera, the screen was the huge wow factor for me, and a huge screen is something I've actually been asking Sony for at the events that we go to where you get to chat with the engineers. I just said, give us all screen. We don't need buttons anymore. A touch screen is more than enough for what we need to do most of the time. If you want to rig it out, do other things with it, you can do that too. But so when I saw this big screen, I was like, yeah, that is something I'm going to want to have to play with. I'm going to want to play with a lot more. So I just ended up buying one because the price of this is very, very aggressive for what it can do. But that's not the only reason. I have some notes here I'm going to reference. This is going to be a very raw video because I just want to talk about it. If you are a Sony shooter, one of the big appeals of shooting with Nikon is the fact that you can use this little adapter right here. This tiny, super thin adapter. Is it locked in here? Oh, it goes the other way. I always forget that. With Nikon, it goes the other way, the lens. So you can get this tiny little adapter here. Let's turn off the autofocus for a second so you can just appreciate quite how thin that is. Is it even going to focus? Look how thin that is. And this is called the Mega DAP adapter. And what this will allow you to do is use all your Sony glass on a Nikon camera with full autofocus, and it works flawlessly. So much so to the point now that I still have my Nikon ZR, ZF, sorry, and I use that for taking all my stills for thumbnails, and I'll often test a lot of lenses with that because it's a really fun, enjoyable camera to use. So I can use this with all my Sony glass autofocus, which is going to be very, very nice to do. I wonder if this battery is charged. It's one of the other little negatives of this thing, which, I mean, we'll talk about some quirks, but it uses CF Type Bs, which I have ready. I got 2 of these CF Type Bs from ProGrade, 1 GB, ready to go. Thank you, ProGrade. I want to shoot R3D with this camera and see what that's like. Because when we got to shoot with this for the first time with Dunner, he shot some stuff, he sent us the files, I got to play with it, and I was amazed at the dynamic range that this thing produces when shooting in R3D. I've never used a RED before, I've never owned a RED. That was the first time I got to experience it, and it was a big wow factor for me because you could just bring back the sky on what would be an image that you just wouldn't have as much sky information in when you want to expose for a different part of the scene. So that was a big eye-opener for me and made me really want to test R3D. But that R3D is very data intensive, which is why we've got 2 of those 1 GB cards. And my estimations roughly get you like an hour and a half of R3D on a 1 TB card. And I've got an 8 TB SSD from ProGrade on its way because I'm going to need that to edit off of. But yeah, so it's going to be very, very data hungry, we should say, if I want to stick with Nikon versus Nikon. How's this going? So one of the big draws with this camera is the placement on the bottom there of the SD card slot. It's not an SD card, CF Type B. The other big draw, tiny little HDMI. You don't need to see it, you've heard people talk about it already. That is your regular size HDMI, and that is what the one going into the Nikon uses. So it's tiny, and when it's in that port, it can very easily snap off. It can very easily become loose. Like even there, I can feel like there's a little bit of wiggle in there. So what you're going to need to do is get a cage for this, or I'm going to need to get a cage for this, and have an HDMI lock on there, which is basically a clamp that clamps onto this, and then you tighten it up. It's part of the cage, so it can't move around basically. And that's, oh, I'm out of focus. And that's going to be something that I think any person that needs to or wants to pick up this camera is going to need to consider, because you're going to go through cables, you can damage a port. And it sucks that they put that on there. I'm sure it's a space-saving feature, that the reasoning for that, but it is what it is. There's no anamorphic support. You got this huge, and that was actually a big disappointment for me and made me question getting this, because you've got this huge screen on here, and whenever you shoot anamorphic, you really need to use an external monitor. But having a big screen and not having to use an external monitor, but then there's no anamorphic support. Now I'm hoping that that is something that Nikon adds in the future via a firmware update, because this is meant to be a competitor to the FX3, if not the FX2. And both of those cameras have anamorphic D-squeeze. We need some form of D-squeeze in this Nikon. Please add it. I hope you do. My gut tells me you're not gonna, because it's not on any of the other Nikon cameras. So it maybe is a firmware thing, I'm not sure, but yeah, no anamorphic D-squeeze. But I can still use it with the Mantis and pretty much compose, because it's 1.3, you can kind of see, and I'll use a monitor as and when I need to. I also want to try out the Blazer Apex with the Mega DAP, because the Apex are autofocus lenses. I want to see how that functions, because this shoots 6K, and you can crop in and you're still going to have a really good image. And I think you can put it into like a Super 35 mode as well. I wish I could actually play with this, but one of the big problems when you buy a new camera and you only have one battery is battery's dead. So yeah. Also, there's like no accessories out for this right now. I looked, and I mean, I think there's something up with Amazon. There was yesterday, because all of the Amazon servers went down, but there was nothing available for next day delivery Prime. I live pretty rural. It was saying like things aren't going to come in until Sunday, which is 5 days from now. My cage for this just shipped. I think it shipped from China, so it's going to be, I think it comes in next week. And I want a screen protector. There's none out right now. If you're an accessory manufacturer watching this, jump on that while you can. The other thing, the H.265 is really badly reviewed. Apparently it has a variable bit rate, which means you can't actually see how much time is left recording. So I'll probably stay away from the H.265. And there's no 10-bit H.264, if I saw that correctly. Nikon also is making, or makes, I've got to buy it, one of these for the camera. A wireless mic that will go on the top and doesn't require a 3.5mm cable via a multi-interface tube. And I really like the protector that they included with this. It's way better than the little plastic ones that Sony gives you, so nice work with that. Nice little bit of branding on that as well there. Oh, you're having a hard go, focus. I got the settings all wrong on my Sony today. That's also very dark, it can't figure it out. And then 32-bit float. So with that mic, you can record 32-bit float internally with no external things required. So this camera really does pack a punch for the 2200 US, I believe it is. And I am a big fan of this body. It feels chunky in the hands. It feels like a very premium camera. It feels very different to an FX3, but it's also quite a bit smaller. I guess it's not really, but it feels smaller. Maybe it's the grip. Yeah, it's definitely the grip, because there is no grip on this. Where's my FX2? So this is the FX2, and the grip is very similar to the FX3, maybe a little bit deeper, but look at the ZR. There's like no grip on there. And people are complaining about that. I feel like once it's caged up, rigged up, it's gonna be fine, but yeah, I guess we'll see. I am very interested. You can hear the sensor moving around in here because it does have IBIS. I'm really excited to play with this camera and see what it can do. I think that's it for now. If you want to learn more about this, then stick around, because this is my journey into this camera. Let's see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.